Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Shop My Stash video. If you guys have never seen a Shop My Stash before, we are going to quickly recap all of the products that I have been focused on the last couple of weeks, and then we will shop through my makeup collection to choose new products to focus on for the next couple of weeks or so. These videos always end up being super long, so we will jump right into it. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before you leave today. Other than that, let's just jump into this Shop My Stash. Alright, so we always start in this top drawer with my foundations and primers. Up first, we have the Catrice Fresh It Up primer. I was able to get a significant amount of use from this primer. I do like this primer, but it's not one that I feel like I would purchase again just because I have other hydrating primers in my collection that I prefer over this one. I imagine I will try to, if I kept this in, I could maybe finish this up before the end of the year. You know what? I think I might keep this in and just try and finish this up before the end of the year to get one more makeup empty in before the end. So I'm going to keep that in, but I did get good use out of it already. And then I also had my Urban Decay All Nighter Ultra Glow Primer. This is a really nice primer if you need something that's going to really grip onto your foundation and you also like a little bit of a glow. But I am going to put this back because I have a couple of new primers that I want to be able to test out and get some use on as well. This Clinique foundation is currently going in a project, so this I'm just going to set on top here. This Dior foundation is also going in a project. I am not going to finish this one by the end of the year, but I will just keep it in for the sake of at least trying to make a little bit more progress on this before the end of the year. And then the two foundations that I had pulled were the Bite Beauty Changemaker foundation as well as the Ilia Super Serum. I used the Bite Beauty a couple times and I used the Ilia one time. I am ready to put both of these back. Okay, so then moving on to powders, bronzers, and concealers. This Ulta Beauty Full Coverage Concealer is currently going in a project, so this one will stay. I am going to be putting back my Elsie and Milani concealers. I was able to use these each a couple of times as well, and I am going to keep my Too Faced Born This Way concealer in. I used this one time, so I didn't get a ton of use out of this one, so I will keep this in along with the Ulta Beauty. I'm also going to keep my Tarte Color Corrector Concealer in. I really enjoy using this, and I only have one other color corrector currently in my collection, so I'm just going to continue to work on the Tarte one, and then I'll circle back to the Becca maybe next rotation. For powder, I had both the Ilia and the Glossier powders for my loose powders. I am going to keep the Glossier in, but put the Ilia back. The Ilia is not a favorite powder of mine. It's just a little bit heavy, but I have been using it to set underneath my eyes, and it's been fine for that, but I am going to grab, I think, the Beauty Bakery powder instead. So I'll put this away. And then I also had my Bite Beauty pressed powder as well. I did get some good use out of that. As you can tell, I have a pretty significant pan in this, but I did pick up the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush powder during the VIB sale, so I want to exchange this one for that. I also have this Sicily powder. This is a blurring powder that you put on before you put your foundation on. I am going to continue to keep this in just because I don't really have anything quite like this in my collection, and I have really been enjoying this. Okay, this Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder currently going in a project, so this will stay. My Fenty Beauty bronzer, I actually got a ton of use out of this. This is in the shade Into Sun, which I have officially been scrubbing my self-tan off again, and this worked really, really well for me because it is a lighter bronzer shade, but I did get quite a bit of use on this, so I'm ready to put this back. My Buxom bronzer I used a couple of times. This is in the shade Backyard Bronze, which works better for me when I do have a self-tan. So I'm going to put this away for the time being as well. I did get some pretty decent use out of my Oma Beauty contour stick, so I'm ready to put this back for a little bit. I do love this product. And then I only reached for my Huda Beauty Tantour one time, so I think I'm going to leave this in as my cream bronzer option for this rotation. Okay, this bottom drawer is a bit of a disaster, and I really don't think I'm going to pull anything out of this drawer. I have liquid shadows, I have a pigment, I have some Super Shock shadows, I have my Kaja trios, I have all of my Natasha Denona minis, my e.l.f. bite-size quads, and then I have the 2 ABH palettes that I'm currently working on. I think I mentioned this, I can't remember what video it was, but I mentioned that I was going to always be trying to pan shades in an ABH palette. So when I hit pan in a shade in one palette, then I will swap palettes for another. So for example, right now in the Carly Bible palette, I am hoping to either hit pan on the shade Moo or the shade Bully. And when I hit pan on either of those two shades, then I will trade this palette out for a new ABH palette. So I'm going to keep these both in here. This drawer, I might not change around as much as other drawers. And then we have my Sultry palette, which I was hoping to hit pan in Dystopian by now, but I haven't quite reached that goal. As you can tell, I have quite a few pans in this palette, but when I hit pan on Dystopian, then I will swap it out for a different palette as well. Okay, moving over to my blush drawer. I have quite a few blushes, it feels like, that are going in projects. So my Hourglass Quad is in a project. My Mood Exposure blush is also going in a project, and I do love this blush for this time of year. My Kylie blush in Close to Perfect, I got quite a bit of use out of this. I actually really like this blush. It's just a really beautiful neutral shade and very easy to match with really anything and wear with anything. But I use this quite a bit, so I can put this back. My RMS Cheek to, is it Cheek to Chic? No, Lip to Cheek blush. This is obviously a cream blush. I used this once, but I wanted to use it more, so I'm going to keep this in. My Charlotte Tilbury Glowgasm, as well as my Ilia Color Multi-Use Haze, Color Haze Multi-Use Pigment. Both of these are going in projects. My Ofra and Samantha March Chiclet. I used this a couple of times. I am ready to put this back. This is one of my favorite blushes, so it's going to pain me to put it away for a little bit, but I did get some good use on that. My Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Chic, I didn't use as much as I wanted to. Plus, this is like the perfect time of year for me to reach for this kind of shade, so I'm going to keep this in. My Buxom blush in the shade Dolly, I used a couple of times, so I'm ready to put this back. I only used this Ilia cream blush once. This is their, what do they call this? Multi-stick, and this is in the shade Dreamer. Also a really, really pretty color for this time of year. But I'm going to put this back so that I can focus on the cream blushes that are currently going in my projects. I also had my Hourglass blush in Euphoric Fusion, which I didn't reach for at all, so I am going to keep this in rotation. And then I had Becca Wild Honey. And then I also had Becca Wild Honey, which I used a couple of times, and I'm ready to put this away. For highlighters, my Mary Lou is in a project, as well as Becca Rose Quartz. I did pull Becca Vanilla Quartz as well, and I only reached for this once, so I'm going to keep this in for another rotation. I am ready to put back my Rare Beauty highlighter in Mesmerize. I have used this quite a bit since purchasing it. I really, really enjoy this highlighter, but I'm ready to put this back. My RMS Living Luminizer Quad, I don't want to put this back, but I've used this so much, so I think I'll put this away and grab a different cream or liquid highlight just to get some use on something else. Laura Geller Charming Pink, I did use a couple of times. I do really enjoy this highlighter for this time of year because I love me a good pink highlighter. So I actually, even though I use this quite a bit, I'm going to keep this for another rotation. Oops. My Fenty Cream Blush in Rose Latte ended up in this drawer. I used this, I think, twice, but I'm going to keep this in rotation because this is like such a beautiful blush for this time of year. My ColourPop Soul Body Highlighter I used a couple of times. I am going to put this away for right now just because I want to grab a couple other pink highlighters. My Pixi Glowy Gossamer Duo I also used a couple of times. This is more intense than I am preferring currently in a highlighter, so I'm ready to put this away for now. And then I also had grabbed my Kaleidos Ray Rider highlight in the shade Space Age, and I used this a couple of times as well. This is a little bit more intense than I typically prefer, but I do think it is a really, really beautiful highlight. And I actually know I have other highlighters that are new that I want to try as well, so I'm going to put this away for right now. Okay, and then in this bottom drawer, I pretty much completely failed with the exception of this Lorac blush palette. I finally reached into this. This has been going for a couple of rotations because I keep forgetting to use it, and I did use this a couple of times, but I would like to, I feel like I would really like that highlighter. Okay, I'm going to keep this in again, and then I didn't use anything else from this drawer. I'm so bad at using face palettes, so I'm going to keep this drawer the same. Alright you guys, now it is time to shop my stash, starting in my 2 desk drawers at my actual vanity where I get ready. In this drawer I have like things that I use all the time, so tools, mascara, eyeshadow primer over here. Here I have all of my Kosas duos, my 2 Patrick Ta blush duos, my Rowan quads, and just some other things that I always want to kind of have like pulled and at reach. But then in this drawer, this is like so really messy with all of my lip products that I am trying to use. I gotta figure out how I want to do like rotating my lip collection in general, but we're gonna ignore that problem for now. In this little box, we have products that are new to my collection that I have started to test, but that haven't made their way into like my permanent drawers or my acrylics for like my Shop My Stash products. So sometimes I will pull products from here. I have 3 primers that I have started to test but haven't made their way fully into my collection. I don't know if this is making sense, but this is just how I go about like the testing process. So first I have the Ordinary High Adherence Silicone Primer, and most recently Catrice sent over a bundle of products. They gifted them to me through Octoly. This was one of the products. This is the Goodbye Pores Long Lasting Soft Focus Effect. I am going to pull this because I am going to try and review this. I will still try and review this as well, but I've used this quite a few times actually. So I'm ready to put this into just my makeup collection because I do like this. I feel like I've tried it enough to know that I like it. This I have tried 2 times and I can't decide if I like it or not. It definitely has a soft focus effect, but for me with my dry skin, I don't know that I love this. This one reminds me a lot of the First Aid Beauty pore filling primer. It feels more hydrating than this does, and this one doesn't pill on me. This one has not pilled really bad like the Benefit primer, but it does have a bit of pilling with this one. I'm going to pull this one. I'm going to try it out. This I'm just going to put back in my makeup collection because I do feel like I've tried this enough times to know how I feel. And then I also have my Essence Fresh and Fit Awake Primer. I've had this for a while just sitting untouched, and I finally started to test this. I like this. I don't think it's going to turn into a favorite, but I'm going to pull this to get some more use out of it. Okay, so then we have these 2 foundations. First I have the Kojendo Aqua Foundation. I've used this a couple of times. It's definitely a little bit, or it's a lot more light coverage, and it doesn't have the longevity that I would need on a day that I go to work. But on days that I'm just like running errands or just around the house and want to put foundation on, I think I'll really end up enjoying this. And then Catrice also sent over the HD Liquid Coverage Foundation, which I don't think is going to be a favorite of mine because it is more full coverage and it's more mattifying, which is not my personal sweet spot. But I do want to continue to test this as well, so I'm going to pull both of these in. Catrice also sent the Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Fixing Spray, which I'm going to put just with the rest of my setting sprays. I've owned one of these in the past and I do like it, but it's just not like an absolute favorite that I feel like I have to have at all times. So I'm just going to put this in my collection. As you can probably see, I've already used this quite a bit. The last product from Catrice is their Liquid Camouflage High Coverage Concealer. I have owned this in the past and I did like it, but the shade range isn't the best on this, which is why I didn't go on to repurchase it. I will throw this into my Shop My Stash rotation though, because it's been a while since I've used it and I would like to be kind of reintroduced to how I felt about it. Just a few more products I'm going to grab from here. I'm going to grab these 3 from Daniel Sandler. I picked up one of the watercolor liquid cheek colors. This is the bronzing shade in Hot Toddy. I used this once and it is very, very warm toned. So definitely I think it's going to work better for me in the summer, but I do want to continue to try this so that I can fully review it. During the SephoraVIB sale, I picked up a 3rd Rare Beauty liquid blush in the shade Love. I've used this twice, really love the shade for this time of year, and definitely excited to continue to use this. And then I have used this once and I'm just so excited to continue to play with this. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. This I have been wanting for literally years and finally picked it up. So I'm really excited to continue to play with this. All right, guys, we are officially in my like permanent drawers. So here is my foundation and primer drawer. I am going to grab my Pat McGrath Skin Fetish foundation and try and mix this with some of the foundations that I'm trying to pan to see if I like them better or can make it work more. But I do have a lot of foundations that I'm going to be working on, so I'm just going to grab that for foundation. And then for primer, I have 3 already to focus on. I think I will grab this Tarte Double Duty primer as a more moisturizing primer, even though I still have that Catrice one I'll be working on as well. But even to use this 1 or 2 times would be nice just to get a little bit more use on this, and we're going to call it good for this drawer. Moving into my second drawer, we have my powders and concealers. I told you guys I wanted to grab my Beauty Bakery powder, so I'm going to reach for this. And then for concealer, I definitely want to pull my Kosas concealer. I have been missing this in my life, and I think I will call it good for concealer just because I already have a lot. I have 3 other concealers that I have selected, so we'll call it good for this drawer. Moving into my bronzer drawer, I already have a cream bronzer chosen. I think I'm going to grab my NARS Laguna bronzer. This is a little bit lighter, so it should work pretty well for me this time of year. And then I'm also going to grab my Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I have been missing this. This is a new favorite as of this year. I think this is such a nice bronzer. So I will grab these 2 and we'll call it good for this drawer. Okay, we are into my ever-growing blush drawer. What do I want to choose? I already have a lot of blushes selected. I think maybe I'll grab this Florence blush. This is a really, really nice cream blush. This is in the shade Zen Z. And then I will, if you guys can hear my laundry, I'm sorry. I'm also going to grab my Cover FX Duo in Warm Honey just because this is one of my favorite blushes for this time of year. And after that, I think I'm going to call it good for blush. Okay, into my highlighter drawer. I do want to grab 1 cream highlighter, but then I'm going to wait until we get to my new drawer to select. Actually, you know what? I also want to grab this powder highlight. This is my MAC Skin Finish in Soft and Gentle. This I have worked diligently on throughout the last like year and a half in order to pan and gotten nowhere close. But this is just a really, really beautiful, this is just such a beautiful highlighter, and it's been a really long time since I reached for this. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm also going to grab my Glossier Night Shine highlighter for my liquid highlight. It's been a little bit since I played with this, and I absolutely love this highlighter. So I'm going to grab that, and we'll call it good for my highlighting drawer. Here is my face palette drawer. I'm not going to grab anything from my face palette drawer currently just because I'm so bad at reaching for face palettes, and I left so many other face palettes in my drawer, and I also have a couple of new face palettes that I want to reach for, so we're going to call it good for this drawer. Okay, I don't think I'm going to grab anything out of my single shadows drawer just because I have so many other single shadows that I left in my drawer. Actually, you know what? I will grab this Tarte Pressed shadow. This is one of their chrome paint pots in the shade Top Yacht. It's just this really, really beautiful like gold shade. I feel like I could get some good use out of this. So I will pull this in, and then we will call it good for this drawer. Okay, that brings me to this drawer, which is the most exciting drawer of them all. It has all of my new stuff. If you guys missed my SephoraVIB sale haul, I will link that for you guys. Okay, there's a bunch I want to reach for, so I'll show them to you quickly. I'm definitely going to pull in my Aether Beauty blush palette and start testing this. I'm so excited to test out Aether Beauty. Like I said, I want to grab this Charlotte Tilbury airbrush powder. I'm excited to have this back in my life. From Daniel Sandler, I also recently picked up the watercolor gel cheek color in the shade Nectar. Let me show you guys what this looks like. It looks like it's going to be like the most beautiful light neutral blush shade. So I'm going to pull this in and test this out. Yeah, that just looks like a really beautiful neutral blush shade, and I'm really excited to play around with this and try this new brand out. Well, new brand to me, that is. From Fenty Beauty, I picked up the holiday set with the mini highlighter as well as this mini cream blush. I already know I like the cream blush formula, but obviously haven't tried this color, so I'm really excited to play with these two. From Charlotte Tilbury, I am so excited to test out the Bronze and Glow duo, so definitely pulling this in. And then finally from Melt, I have one of these cheek duos, which I'm also very, very, very excited to test out. So I'm going to pull this in, and that is going to be it for all of my makeup. In my bottom drawer, I have new palettes that I'm testing and a bunch of other palettes that I'm just trying to reach for. I just kind of grab palettes as I feel like. I think next year for my Shop My Stash, maybe I'll do things a little bit different, but I also have this bowl of palettes that I'm still working on testing out as well. So I have a ton of palettes that I need to be testing out and working on, so we won't Shop My Stash for that. Again, I might do that differently next year, and I gotta figure out how I want to Shop My Stash for my lip products or how I want to rotate through my lip products, but that is gonna wrap it up for today's Shop My Stash. I'm really excited to play around with a bunch of new makeup. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around to watch, and I will catch you guys in my next video.